Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today we're going to find out if Pokemon Legends Arceus belongs on your shelf. Go right into it.
Let me address that right off the bat. So there have been many debates as to whether it's Arceus or Arceus, etc. And the big problem with the debate is that even the few games with voice acting has sort of had conflicting pronunciations, like the anime and Battle Revolution would say his name. As far as the Japanese are concerned, it's Arceus.
Okay, Arceus.
So that's why I call it Arceus, but the Battle Revolution called it Arceus, and I think the anime also called it Arceus. So I'm just going to trust the Japanese in this case. But considering that this game also doesn't have voice acting, it doesn't help.
Doesn't help at all. We can't get a definitive answer. So basically, we're going to find out if this belongs on your shelf. This is our first video game episode that's completely about a video game, guys. I don't know if we've done that. No, we
did a Sword and Shield episode already.
Oh, we did Sword and Shield.
Yeah, we did it way back when. That was
oh my goodness. That's one of the first episodes.
The start of the show.
Oh, go back to that, I guess. Maybe. And then come back to this. We're gonna be talking, but there's some big differences here. I think that's the first things off the bat. This isn't no Sword and Shield. This is
Thank
God. And there is some limitations to it also not being Sword and Shield. I want to say off the bat that the problem with this game already is that they've already revealed that they're working on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Super excited for those games.
But the game was already out at that point. I think it would have been worse if they had announced it right before this release to sort of immediately deflate the interest.
Yeah.
But the game had already been out for a couple weeks before we got that announcement, at least.
But it's one of those things that that game's still coming so soon that you're like what? And that kind of entails what this really is. This is a test demo. Mm-hmm. This is I enjoy this game. Please do not get me wrong. I actually really enjoy this game. I'm not just saying it as a Pokemon guy. There's of course some problems, and we're gonna go into that today. I'm gonna go into each detail of what's actually wrong here and what's right and what makes this actually work. But it's funny because now we kind of know this is a tech demo because it's not fully fleshed, I think. I think you could see that from the graphics, obviously, and the graphics upgrade to Violet and Scarlet is that it's an actual difference,
upgrade in certain ways and not so much in others, at least from what little we've seen of it.
It's not like it's a huge upgrade. I'm not saying it's wild, but they actually put textures on the Pokemon, and you're like, what the fuck, guys? This took so goddamn long. But really, I do enjoy this game, but I do want to say that's one of the things that will factor into this rating now is that knowing that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are coming, that pretty much deflates any future DLC for this, which was going to be part of my thing being hey, if this has future DLC, this will be great, and then...
Never say never, Frank. We're literally getting fucking DLC for Mario Kart 8 this weekend.
Yeah, that's fucking true, I guess. That's very true. But it's one of those things that, I did like the update they put out, and they put out another update actually this morning. I had to update Lord Arceus again this morning after playing yesterday. I'm going to call it Lord Arceus so many times, guys. I'm so sorry. I already did this on Ape Arcade. Shout out to my buddies over at Ape Arcade. They are awesome. I love being on their show. I love being on their stream. and I constantly called it Lord Arceus, Arceus on their stream because I just skipped through the words and I don't say legends, so I was calling it Lord, and I actually like started a thing where they just started calling it Lord Arceus too. Lord Arceus, and I kind of dig that name too. I think that could have actually worked, you know, like if they were like Pokemon Lord Arceus, you would be like, I mean, oh yeah, he is Shogun.
He is like, God, basically.
He is God. That's why maybe that's why I'm like, shoot, just slot that sucker in there. I do kind of like this. What I want to say is if this is not just a tech demo, if this is actually another spin-off series, this is Pokemon Legends, where they do past Legends Pokemon, like, you know, like with new regions, with a whole new roster and like, you know, big open worlds. And you know, the next one's like a European castle one, and we'll be exploring a bunch of castles,
or just
you know,
different regions, because this game does take place in Sinnoh. It's just before it's called Sinnoh,
right? And it's like, so it's like they definitely could do that for a bunch of places, you know, but like do a pre-content or
and
like
there
something
is
like that.
There is a focus shift for this.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily something I think a lot of elements will factor into Scarlet and Violet going forward, but there's also just much less of an emphasis on battles here.
Yeah, a huge de-emphasis on. Well, that's not true. De-emphasis on trainer battles.
Yeah,
I think
it's
they
not
definitely.
But
upped
even
Pokemon.
But even that, maybe it's just like the person who likes stealth games in me. But most of the time, I try to catch whatever I can without actually having to fight anything.
Really?
And my main draw every time I jump
come here,
into this, the main draw for this game every time I revisit it is mostly to just sneak around and catch some bitches.
It is nice to be like when you're in the late game and you're just like smoke bomb, cake. You know, like, and then you're just like whap, 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 whap. And now with the added, which I really do enjoy, the mass outbreaks that they've been doing for the like the added update. I think that was actually a really great add-on to the end of the game. You know, like where you were just like, oh, cool. Now there's shit tons of Pokemon. You know, like, and you know exactly where they are in a massive outbreak, and you're like, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, like you're like, I dig that. So me and you haven't actually talked about this that much, bro, because I think we've been saving it. I think we've been saving it for this episode because
I also got the game like a couple weeks late.
Yeah. So I was kind of done with the game.
I was waiting I couldn't trust you because you like Sword and Shield too much.
Well, okay.
I had to wait.
I want to preface that at least that even Pokemon, like the franchise, still acknowledges that Sword and Shield is the competitive Pokemon game. You know, like where they're like, that's the competitive VGC Pokemon, you know, like, and they didn't move it to Arceus, and maybe they'll move it to Scarlet and Violet, but I hope so. Jesus Christ. If people are gonna be playing fucking Sword and Shield next year at VG, you know, at their like Pokemon Championship,
I'm sure it was better once they actually added much more of a larger Pokedex. But I had no interest in the competitive side compared to Gen 6, especially because I didn't have all the tools I wanted.
Yeah. I understand that. I definitely had a lot of fun with the competitive, and I enjoyed that. That's what was the big part of why I enjoyed that game. But this is different. This is a lot different.
I've been cynical ever since post Gen 6. Gen 6 was a good balance. Like, it was the first real jump to 3D when it went to the 3DS, so that was refreshing. It had a lot of great quality of life changes, like, oh, running shoes are gone, you're on roller skates, move around faster. The PSS is so simple, so easy, and fast to just connect. You're just like, it's right there as a menu. Do you want to trade? Do you want to battle? Bam, here's your friends list. Go. And then we've moved backwards and backwards from that, and we've made it more counterintuitive.
True. Very true.
And then amongst other things, aside from like Sun and Moon adding regional variants on Pokemon, which I really dig, and we've continued to move that forward as we've gone along, it's just gotten really, really dull. And so I'm just waiting. I was waiting for my more cynical friends who are also kind of fatigued and want something a little different to say if Legends was worth getting, and they're just like, we enjoy it, so you're gonna enjoy it. I'm like, okay, I'll get it.
Okay. And so what do you think now? Because I know I talked about it a bit with you, but I'll bring up my points again. But I want to hear what your thoughts are.
It's not perfect.
Yes,
but I've had more fun with this than like the last 2 generations combined.
I gotta agree, dude. I gotta agree. I gotta agree. I haven't had so much fun with a Pokemon game in a while. You know, like it's like I enjoy the competitive, but it was very much like a grind. You know, like that's what you're up to. It's like I had a lot of fun with this, like, and that's why there's I of course have problems because I had a lot of fun, and I'm like, hey, this is
good, but just like little changes could make this better. Like, for one, we've already talked about like the graphics, and just how limited this game is sometimes. Like, I crack up anytime there's any sort of flying Pokemon that's even a few feet away, and they just stutter themselves through the air.
And that's why I laugh when people are like, Breath of the Wild Pokemon. And we're not going to like fucking talk about that today. Is that this is not Breath of the Wild Pokemon. This is, in reality, if we actually had to break down the formula, it's fucking Monster Hunter and Pokemon and a little bit of Xenoblade, which is very obvious from the developers of Xenoblade actually being involved with this game. And I think that's what makes the fucking difference here. I hate to sound like a fucking Xenoblade fanboy, but
no, you're not.
It makes the fucking difference.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, Game Freak has never been sort of shattered the expectations of your childhood, but Game Freak has never been the best developer.
No, it's kind of like Team Sonic is not actually good. You're like, oh, what? Hold on.
They've never been the
Game
best
Freak's
developer.
not actually good. You're like, oh, wait.
You can find like data mining information about like up to about like Gen 6 and 7 where they still have old code from like back in the early like Game Boy days that they don't need. They just don't know how to get rid of because they're not great programmers.
They're just like, nope.
Yeah, and then you get to stuff like the fucking lie of Sword and Shield. They're just like, well, we limited the Pokedex because we really wanted to improve the models for Sword and Shield, so it was a sacrifice, and the models look exactly the fucking same as they did for the 2 gens before that.
Literally ripped it from the last game. They there was literal code from the 3DS in it. You know, and you're just like,
you fucking liars.
You fucking liars.
Them outsourcing to like other development teams to sort of like help us. We don't know how to do this. Is sure, do it. Why not?
Right? You're just like, it's totally fine by me. I think that there's a lot of fun to the actual mechanic of running up to Pokemon and either hiding or just like charging up to them and whipping a fucking Pokeball at them. I loved when it came to I finally got a jet ball. Jet balls and the rest of the ball, like the flying sky balls, are hilarious because you take the Pokemon mechanic of like arcing a ball all the time, like which is they kind of added here, but it's Pokemon Go, like as being like arc it, like arc it. And they were kind of trying to like it. That's the kind of funny part about this is that they really thought about what made Pokemon Go popular gameplay wise and put it into a 3D Pokemon game,
Except they put it in a game with some content.
Yes, some actual content instead of Pokemon Go, which I don't know how. Which I'm not shitting on Pokemon Go. I will not.
I will.
Well, it's like one of those things that I think that was the last time the world knew peace, man. Was Pokemon Go's first couple weeks. That was a wild time. I think that was like all of us coming together. That was like our weird cultural moment for that decade.
Yeah. I mean,
you're just like, what?
I sure watched from the outside of that.
But I get what you're saying is that there's not too much to it, and you're just like once after a while, and I don't even understand how people still do it other than just being like, I'm playing a Pokemon game, people love that.
It's a very similar beef to like the Let's Go games where it's just like, why do these modern games have less content than a game on the fucking Game Boy?
I enjoyed Let's Go Pikachu for it being like another playthrough through Red, like but yellow basically.
But we had a Gen 1 remake already
right?
with Fire Red and Leaf Green, and that was on the Game Boy Advance, and those were better.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'll be happy if they don't continue Let's Go and they don't do Johto as Let's Go.
Well, after Let's Go and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I'm like, I don't think you guys need to touch the remakes anymore.
Yeah,
that's what I think. You peaked with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which is great for me because Gen 3 is my favorite, but it's really sad.
I hope that the sales of Brilliant and Shining show, show them to stop doing those remakes, like you're like please stop. We don't need them. We can just move forward.
You can do them, but the general conceit for the remakes, at least up until Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, was, we're gonna take all the current technology and elements that we have for whatever the current gen is, and we're gonna apply it with an old game. That was what was cool. Just like, we're up to Gen 3. Let's remake Gen 1 with Gen 3 stuff.
Yeah,
let's remake Gen 2 with Gen 4 stuff. Let's remake Ruby and Sapphire with Gen 6 elements. It's awesome. But then you get to Let's Go, and you're like, okay, now we're taking two steps back.
Yep.
And then you get Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where you're just like, okay, this might as well be a 3DS game.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like they may have started to develop it as a 3DS, and then once they were killing the 3DS, they were like, okay, I guess we're on the Switch now.
And even then, it still looks worse than Oris did.
Yeah, it's very strange. I didn't buy that game. It was the only Pokemon game I have not bought in recent memory. Is that?
Yep, I didn't want it either.
I just didn't. I'm not fond of that generation. So I'm not even and I get now how that. If I had played that, I could have understood the story beats in this a little bit better, because it was definitely more of a mystery for me, where I couldn't remember Diamond and Pearl, even though I played them years ago. It was one of those things that I couldn't remember every fucking little thing. So it was one of those things that I was like, oh, cool, very mysterious,
Yeah, I remembered certain locations on the map.
Yeah.
So it's just look, it's Lake Verity. That's this that's that. That's where the Lake Trio is going to show up. So we're going to meet them at some point. And Mount Corn, that's a big deal in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum. So I'm like, okay, I'm sure that's going to be the set piece for something. And it was mostly that and a lot of the major NPC characters are basically ancestors of characters from
I probably
Diamond
would have
and Pearl.
caught that. Spoilers, guys, but that Vovo was a bad guy if I had remembered that he was a bad guy earlier. I was totally the whole game being like...
Oh, you're talking about the head of your organization with the mustache?
No, the salesman. It's one of those things that if I had remembered that game, I would have been like, and I didn't remember until he took off and he was wearing sort of the same costume, and I was like, hey, it's him. I remember that guy.
I got a little bit of surprise when the head of the Galaxy team turns on you for a bit and he shows up in this awesome samurai armor. That caught me off guard only because he's supposed to be the ancestor of Professor Rowan. So I'm like, no, you're the ancestor of my professor in those games. You can't be bad.
And I think that's one of the important things about this game. And I think that's it right there, is that you bring it up, is the change in tone. So we go from a Pokemon game, every Pokemon game, 10-year-olds, get out there. You're fucking too old to be sitting around the house. Go become the very best. And you're like, and they kick you out. This game, he's 15, just, chilling in his Pokemon world. And then he gets fucking zapped.
Fucking isekai'd into the past.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't even know if he died. They don't even say if he actually isekai'd. But it's he basically, this is Pokemon the Isekai, which
Was he trampled by a Tauros or something instead of getting hit by a truck?
Right, it's something stupid. Yeah, right. I would love that. They got to put that before this. They need DLC where they show you being walking around another Pokemon world and then bam.
Yeah.
And they maybe walking around Violet and Scarlet, that would be a cool little DLC connection. That's too good of an idea. Sorry, they'll never do that. No, but I think there's some fucking little bit of meat to this little story here. It's not too bad.
I do think it's way more validating for Gen 4 heads than the fucking actual remakes were. So I'm at least glad that they have that, because I have a lot of friends who are like super Gen 4 people, and I've never been a Gen 4 person. So when Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out, I was just so sad for them.
You were like, I'm sorry.
Especially because of like the amount of fucking love they put into Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which is my gen. It's just like, so I got spoiled to shit and you guys got fucking peanuts.
You guys got fucked.
So this was like way more validating to them. And I'm at least glad for that, which makes sense. Even though I'm not huge on Gen 4, there is a lot of like Gen 3 and
cool
4 was the start
bits
of like lore and actual fucking deities, world changing and ending events. Because in Gen 1 and 2, you're just like, it's the mob.
And you're like, kick the mob's ass and become the very best. That's what you gotta do.
And then
what every 10-year-old does,
then you get to Gen 3. And then you get to Gen 3 and it's like the world is in balance and the power of the continents and the power of the sea will battle and you need to balance the powers with the power of the sky. Just like, okay, so we're dealing with literal like gods now.
and I see, that's, I think they say it many times in this, and then that's what I mean by the tone shift, is that they say Pokemon are terrifying creatures. It almost becomes a joke. They're like, Pokemon are terrifying creatures. But they like say it so many times that you're just like, it's like, I get it. It's kind of like, to bring up a Gundam thing, they say a really great line that like the people of Earth, our souls are held down by gravity, and that's why they can't like become new types. And I always love that line. And then Char says it like 50 billion more times after like that, and you're like, I get it. They're held down by gravity. But here it's like, I get it. Pokemon are terrifying creatures. And there's plenty of plot here where people are just scared of Pokemon. People are just straight
but
up.
It's nice.
Right? As they probably should. These are terrifying creatures. These are weird motherfuckers.
This is the most where like, because it's in the distant past and you don't have like technological advances as much as the modern times as far as the Pokemon universe is concerned, you're just kind of being sent out into the wilderness. You're like, go out there and don't die.
And they even say that. They basically are like, you are 15. If you want to be part of this team, get the fuck out there and don't die for a whole night and, catch whatever you can. And you're just like, hey, okay.
and it's like this and the Snap games have made like Pokemon feel the most like actual animals.
Yes.
Both good and bad. You're just like, oh, hey, it's a Bidoof. What the fuck is a beaver gonna do to me? And then you see like a flaming horse fucking roaring into the sky. You're like, oh. I see now.
Oh, I get it. They are terrifying creatures.
All the time.
Danger. That's what this game finally instills in you, is that you are in danger. It's like, like in all of the other Pokemon game, they're not able, even in, they like, in any other ones, they haven't been able to, even in X and Y where they ran at you, they didn't get that like terrifying, like these things are fucking huge and they're running at you, like things that they get here in Arceus. I'm gonna say it in an Irish accent so I can't fuck it up. Arceus. But it's like they actually get that, like, of course they do the joke of like the Snorlax that you could see almost like right away if you go to the right, like, and the Snorlax just is like way over leveled than you, which is very Xenoblade. This whole like first area was very like, you could tell that was like the most time they spent on like designing.
I know you've only played 2, but there's a lot of that in the first game too.
Yes. It's like they definitely want you to come back and like re-challenge these areas later on, like, and I like that, not being like, hey, this area you just walked by, useless, fucking useless, keep moving, like, I like that it's like, hey, come back here and check out this dope ass thing we made, like, and you're like, okay.
And it's also like risk reward too, because you can catch those alpha Pokemon if you want. It's just going to be very fucking difficult. You're going to have to sit there and try a lot.
And that's what it brings us to the other thing that I think that makes this game actually a good Pokemon game. And I was sort of saying it with them being terrifying, is that this is an actually sort of hard Pokemon game. It, like not exactly Dark Souls here. We're not talking about punishing or anything. This is still, if you fuck up enough times, this is a Pokemon game. They'll be like, you want to skip this, bitch? And kids will be able to be like, yeah, cool, I skipped it, I won.
I suppose. I still feel like I'm over leveled for any given like actual story event every time it pops up.
Oh, every time,
and
dude.
To be honest,
every time.
The only time I actually died in battle was once during one of the
you didn't lose to any of the alpha Pokemon? You didn't once
for the last one. All the other times I died were just me being stupid, trying to traverse the area and like falling to my death. Those are the only other deaths I had.
That was definitely the worst, when you'd just be like, do, and then you'd be like, I hope this cliff is short, and then you're like, it's not. And then you'd be like, death, and you'd be like, son of a bitch. Or you're flying on the bravery and you just fucking launch yourself a little too high and then just eat shit on the ground. And you're like, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I will say that this was hard in Pokemon battling. It's not hard in trainers. Every trainer, I kick their ass. Even in, I'm excited to catch all the Pokemon and do that like actual boss rush that they have there at the end. I want to actually try that. We haven't even said that yet. You what, 70 hours into this? It said.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, how did you catch all the Pokemon? Where were you at?
I basically like beat the game. I got Manaphy and Fion, which I needed to get some tips from my buddies, because it's one of those things where like you have to play Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl to get the hint.
Oh,
but I'm like, I'm not doing that. So tell me what it is.
So you tell me what it is right now.
So I got Manaphy and Fion. I beat the game, and I'm mostly just sort of like in post game stuff looking for legendaries. I caught Shaman.
Nice. I did all the yesterday. I finished all the plates in post game, so I beat the game. I finished all the plates, but of course, it's like you challenge Arceus after you've caught all the Pokemon, and I'm like sitting at 222 at the moment, and I'm mostly just evolving Pokemon to like fill up the rest of the decks. Like I'm at the moment and trying to do all that.
I'm not gonna go full completionist on it, just because I'm not doing this shit where you're just like, use Hydro Pump 50 times. You're like, fuck off.
I hated the ones, the only quests that I liked the quests a lot. I thought a lot of them were actually, Xenoblade S, where it didn't make you feel like you were just going from place to place. You were actually doing some things. And I was like, hey, cool. But then there's stupid ones like bring a Scyther to cut 3 things. And you're like, why can't I just, like all the other quests, go up to that guy and say, I have a Scyther in inventory?
Yeah, that was weird to me too.
Like, you're like
one
what?
of those few quests where like they require it to actually be in your party, as opposed to just dude, grab it from my pastures and go nuts.
Yeah, there were so many quests where it was like grab it from the pastures and go nuts, and then anytime they were like bring the exact Pokemon, I was like, well, I'm not doing you. Fuck off. Like I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. So I got a couple quests that I didn't beat. I am
glad that like Dex completion, at least as far as like people require it for certain quests, aren't the full like do this 50 times, do this 20 times, do this 15 times. It's usually just like catch enough of them or interact with them enough, you'll eventually get it to research level 10, and that's all they want. Thankfully.
I think that's another interesting point to bring up. I think that's a huge formula change here, is that we go from being like battle heavy Pokemon to and grinding and raising your Pokemon to filling a Pokedex for the first time, where it feels like that's really the goal, like that's,
where you're actually doing research, which fits because, like I said, the Pokemon actually act like animals in the wild here. So it's funny to like sneak around them and see what they do and feed them and stuff like that.
That's what I think is another great thing, is that they put in such great animation and like AI into these Pokemon, instead of it just being like X and Y, where they're just like, I'm in a grass. And you're like, he's in grass. That's right. He likes grass things. And you're like, instead of that, it's
now,
like,
if only some of that went into the actual people as well. The amount of times I made fun of the fucking main protagonist's surprised face, the stupid O face.
Oh, I wore a mask the whole time. I had the ninja mask, so I was just like,
I got the ninja mask like afterwards,
I
but
was
like for those
mask.
early cutscenes, it's just like,
I dug it. I thought it was actually kind of funny. I was
ridiculous.
like, this guy's living life. He's like, woo! It's just like, this is fucking wild. Like, you're just like, he's just blown away constantly. You know, it's a high stakes life. It's a high stakes life. But I think you brought up a good point earlier. They take some hints from Pokemon Snap here, where the Pokemon, you know, you can actually go in first person if you actually really want to. You can go in first person, which is nice. You're like, hey, first person Pokemon adventure if I really wanted to. But like you can literally and then like the Pokemon literally act like animals. Like the little ones will go up to the bigger ones if you miss them with a Pokeball or if they're alerted to you, and they'll alert the bigger ones and they'll fucking bring them with you to kick your ass. They're like, I'm gonna go tell my mom, and they tell their mom, and their mom kicks your ass.
Just like, I'm gonna kick your mom's ass too.
Yeah, you're like, exactly. You're like, I'm gonna catch your mom, bro. You're like, bring him over. I actually really enjoyed that like aspect of this, is that it's sort of a collectathon. It's sort of a gather as much as you can. And yes, you said you don't have to fully fill out a Pokedex entry, even at first, where you're just like, holy shit, am I supposed to do this?
It's also pretty open as to like what your play style is when you're out in the wild areas. You don't need, if you don't care about battling, which for this game I surprisingly didn't, and usually that's a big emphasis for me.
Really?
I mostly was just like, let me sneak around. I'm gonna fucking crouch walk right up on this alpha Pokemon's ass and use a Megaton ball and just like run away and hope they catch. She's like, oh, it didn't work. I'm gonna try it again. I don't want to fight you.
Here we go. That's
I
funny.
just want to catch you with my skill.
If I fucked up, I was like immediately like, I'm gonna beat your ass now. I was like, time to face my wrath. Like you thought you couldn't catch the ball.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is that I kind of love that. Is that there was this like aspect of like just catching Pokemon, and then if you really wanted to, you could battle them down to a classic Pokemon way, battling them down and then take it, you throw in the Pokeball and catching them. You know, like you're like beautiful. A beautiful marriage of these weird two mechanics, and I was like, hey, that's pretty good.
I do want to talk about issues though.
One more thing that's a pro. I do enjoy that they're not a complete full open world, because obviously it couldn't do that because it could barely run at times. But it's like,
even for as much as we praise Breath of the Wild, like Breath of the Wild knows how to hide its cracks.
Yeah, it was like
it's cell shaded to shit, which is less a stylistic choice and more like, well, we can hide a lot of the cracks this way. It's not like Wind Waker where it's just like, well, we're going full cartoon with this. It's gonna look great. And on top of that, like it also reuses a lot of assets. That's why you have the same like 4 types of shrines repeated. The same divine beasts basically function the exact same, the same fucking Blight Ganons.
And I think this does the same, where it's reusing a lot of assets pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think it's a good thing that they break it up, you know, like, cause it's like, you can actually have different locales, you know, like that we could actually do. And I did enjoy that.
That's a testament to Sinnoh as a region as a good choice for a game like this, because Sinnoh, at least in terms of like an area and a region, has like super diverse biomes. Right. So it made sense. Like there is a beach, there is like a volcano, there's a bunch of varied types of areas.
Yeah. And I dug that about this, that they were, and I will say there's a lot of shit on graphics, but certain biomes here actually looked gorgeous. There was like moments of gorgeousness, and then you would see a Pokemon, you'd be like climbing up a wall, or like flying next to a cliff as the sun's setting, and you're like, wow, this game is gorgeous. And then you see Gyarados off in the distance going, you're just like, what is happening? What is happening?
And I get that they were trying to sort of emulate that old like painterly style you see in a lot of like old Japanese art.
Yes.
But it doesn't translate, and it just makes everything look kind of like dull and washed out sometimes.
I feel that. And I think that when we're already talking bad graphics here, is that one of the worst offenses is obviously the ground. Like in if we're talking like the same system, Breath of the Wild, Witcher, they were able to actually put some fucking texture into the fucking ground without it making it look like it was just stretched ass art on the fucking floor. And that's what it looks like here. It looks like they fucking couldn't figure out a texture right, and it kind of stretched. And there's like points where like bricks look really bad, and it's rough.
You want to talk about texture issues? Anytime any person's like article of clothing is too close to the camera and it just gets all fucking pixelated. I think of Professor Laventon's badge.
Yeah.
The patch on his coat, depending on like what angle you see it at, that shit turns into a pixelated mess.
Yeah, and you're just like, ooh, like there's a lot of. And that's the thing is, once you get the bird and the fish, and I think that's an important part to bring up too, is that I think we're playing a different game when you don't have the animals to run around with. It's just like it felt bigger, it felt huge, and then they introduced the animals, and it kind of makes the world smaller, which makes sense because you're supposed to catch the Pokemon faster in the later game. But it's like it definitely. It's one of those gameplay problems where it went from being like, wow, to being like, oh.
Yeah, that's a good segue into like one of my bigger issues is that you want to talk about the world feeling smaller. The amount of Pokemon in this game starts to feel smaller and smaller as you go along.
As you get close to the end of the
I'm
decks.
in a new area, and I'm still seeing the same shit. Like, we're in the winter tundra. Why the fuck are there a bunch of Apom around?
Why is there a bunch of Machamps? Like, like it's one of those things where you're just like, what? Hold on. Yeah, the Apom, you're like, what are you doing here? Like, it's one of those things where you're like, what?
This game, like, loves the Luxray evolution line. It really loves Apom, and it really fucking loves Mothams. There are Mothams everywhere.
Mothams everywhere. And of course, there's some actually, and this is what I meant about good things about, but also, like, it's kind of funny, is that they make certain Pokemon aggressive. Like, of course you knew the Zubats were going to be aggressive. They've always been aggressive.
Yeah,
and I think they translated that well. But I never fucking understood how fucking annoying a Paris could be until this fucking first area where there were, like, literally 30 of them, and you had to be like, fuck off! Like,
they're persistent little bastards. And I guess that's just a testament to, like, the biology of a Paris, where it's literally infected by cordyceps.
Right.
So you're like, okay, maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why they're so damn aggressive. I think that's kind of funny that they make them so damn aggressive. It's kind of like a Pokemon thing where, it's kind of like a video game thing where you're like, Gandhi's super aggressive in Civilization, and you're like, Gandhi, no. Like, you're like, these tiny crabs are super aggressive. You're like, no, Paris, no. So you were saying,
just like we needed, by the time you get to later areas, like where you feel like
diversify.
There should be even more Pokemon to explore. It starts to like narrow itself, and you start to see a lot of repeats.
Even in the they do these things where they do like storms, where they like it's like the little bubble. What's it called? It's like a time storm. I forget what they call it. Distortion. They do, which I really liked that, where it was like it doesn't matter which area you were in, you got in a distortion and you got random Pokemon, and like and sometimes and they were all aggressive. So
and there was like a method to it as well. I like that they were specific about it in certain cases. Like, oh, this is where you get normal variants of Pokemon that already have a regional variant here. Like they already have a Hisui variant on Sneasel, so you can get a normal Sneasel in the distortion field. Or the fact that like Porygon show up in the distortion field.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make sense for them to even exist in Hisui at this point in time because it's an created Pokemon, but in a distortion field, it makes sense for it to show up.
Right, you're just like I actually kept my Porygon on my team the whole time. I really wanted an alpha one, and I never got a good alpha one at the moment. But I hope to find one soon. But he was on my team the entire time. I loved him. My team at the end was Dulcidi, Infernape, and I basically have other than the last 2 slots which I used for Pokemon Evolution. I did Dulcidi, Infernape, Porygon, Garchomp, and then I had my shiny Gyarados that I got and something and something I was evolving at the time. And so that was my team pretty much the whole game, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that team. I enjoyed the selection of Pokemon in this game. My problem, you were saying that's small, and yeah, 236 Pokemon. It's like it's not too bad
for a game that
feels small.
For a game that's trying to emphasize how much more open it is compared to the mainline games, and to only have 236. It's I mean, early on they find a good way to like sparse it out so it feels more open than it actually is, but again, by the time you get to the final area, you're just like, and the same shit again. Yeah,
and you're like, why is this guy here again? You're like, why couldn't you put rarer Pokemon? That's the question, is that like at certain points there should just be rarer Pokemon, and they're just not there, and then you have to like, and sometimes they do it as like specifics, like you gotta find those rare Pokemon doing specific shit, which I dig, I dig that stuff, but it's also one of those things where you're just like, you limited your list even further by doing like exclusive where they should be Pokemon, like in the distortions and in just in specific spots. Number one problem with this game, and I know most of you will agree with me, is where the fuck is Charmander, bro? Where the fuck is my boy? You can't even see him over there with the sunlight, but there's my Charmander. Where's my goddamn Charmander? I want my Charizard. Where the fuck is it, Deshaun? Where the fuck is it? My only personality trait is Charmander. So where is it? It's my only Pokemon swag I got. I got socks on. I got fucking Charmander socks on right now. It's the only. I had to wear a Godzilla shirt, but I didn't have any Pokemon stuff other than the socks. But it for swag. But I'm joking, sort of, but it's also one of those things where you're just like, what? Like you're like that. It makes you be like, well, that's why I wanted DLC. Like where I was just like, give me more Pokemon, like give me more of the guys and give me battles. That's all I was kind of asking for, is give me more battles. And they definitely did with the update that they did. They added some more battles. Still not tough enough. The highest was a level 80 guy.
And to be honest, like none of the actual like trainer battles are remotely as fun as like the alpha Pokemon that you fight as part of the story, which is hilarious because it just kind of boils down to a dodge roll and throwing shit at its face.
A lot of this game is just like, so you're a mage from Dark Souls, like dodge, throw fucking fireball, like you're just like dive, dodge. But I did like those boss fights. I think that they, like they do work well. Definitely by the last one, I was kind of like, okay, I was like, all right. But at the same time, it was the last one. So it was one of those things that you're like, okay, cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I had fun with those. I love seeing, I'm always down for like new regional variants or new evolutions for Pokemon that haven't had them before.
Right.
So,
always important.
Like, Cleaver was really cool to me.
Yeah,
because everyone already likes the Scyther line. Like, people love Scyther, people love Scizor. I'm like, ooh, Cleaver, that's different.
That's different.
And stuff like the regional variant of Avalugg, which I appreciate that it's just fucking huge. I've always liked Avalugg, just design-wise, so I like seeing just a giant one that's also part stone.
Right, it's cool. I dig that. And I dug a lot. I liked a lot of the variants.
Speaking of regional variants, since they pretty much gave it to every starter, which starter did you end up picking?
I went with Rowlet. So that was a big surprise to me that they were different they changed with their last evolution, that it was
I didn't
going
know
to
that
be
either
that
until
was
I got
that
mine.
was the biggest surprise. So spoiler alert, guys, sorry, that was actually like the nicest but also weirdest surprise to me, is that, you know, I was going in being like, Rowlet, you know, like, cool, you know, I know him, and then it was just like, oh, he changed, and you're like, oh shit, that's cool. Like, I was like, all right.
Picking a starter was really hard for me because these 3 that they decided to pick were literally the starters I picked for each of those gens. I picked Cyndaquil in Gen 2. I
Yeah.
picked Oshawott in Gen 5. I picked Rowlet in Gen 7. You're like, damn it. So, but I ended up going with Oshawott just because I'm like, all right, I like Samurai. I like the Samurai
Really?
motif. I think it works for like this as a period piece.
I would
And
have put
then
Cyndaquil before, you know, I would have done Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and I wouldn't have chosen that third guy. Sorry, he turned. Nah, I didn't.
that third guy, watch your goddamn mouth.
Sorry, I didn't. It's like, well, I like a lot of the water starter types. Of course, Squirtle's the fucking best. And immediately when I caught a Piplup, I was like, you're going on the team, buddy. Get in there. And then of course I had him pretty much on the team a long time. But I do like that they give you the other 2 starters at the end. I thought that was a nice little touch, being like, hey, don't worry, you don't have to catch them in a distortion somewhere, you know, like.
So when I already like Samurot's design, and I figured, oh, this takes place in the past, so like having a samurai starter would actually be perfect. And then seeing that it was water dark this time and had a slightly altered design, I'm like, oh, sick. Now I wonder what the other 2 look like. And now I've seen them, and I love just chill, baked out of his mind Typhlosion.
Right. I was like, yes, ghost, you mean by faded. I was like, that man is faded.
And then
Lone Wolf and Cub, Decidueye, you were like, oh shit.
I thought Wolf and Cub, and he also kind of looks like the Skull Kid.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit with his little face. I thought that was funny, dude. I was like, what? It was so weird because I was like so expecting one thing, and then when he showed up, I was like, what? And like no one ruined it for me. I didn't even know that happened. So it was the biggest surprise.
But it's a good idea. I love regional variants. It's been like one of the coolest things that Sun and Moon could actually claim to have added.
That new,
because it makes sense. It's something that's so simple. Like, we can just reuse an old Pokemon and give it maybe a new typing and a new design. We don't have to completely reinvent the wheel on it. But it's such a simple change that makes the world feel a lot bigger. Because you're like, yeah, these are animals. Of course there would be different types of these same species depending on where you live.
I really dug the Voltorb change to look like this Pokeball here. You know, like, I thought that was a nice touch. You're like, who comes first, the Voltorb or the Pokeball?
It made me sad because, like, this Voltorb looks so happy. It's kind of got like a cocky grin on its face. I'm like, oh man, what happened to you over the years to make you so fucking aggro?
Well, because so many fucking self-destructs. I don't know if you had one chase you down and then just self-destruct itself to death. Like, that was another scary bit. Like, some Pokemon would just murder themselves to get to you. And you're like, that's so... It's very bee-like, you know? Like, a male bee fucking dies after it fucking stings you, you know? Like, certain... bees, but like you're just like it's like it's like okay, all right, like like them just exploding. The Geodude's not doing it at first and then being able to do it later. You're like, holy shit.
Little stuff like in Sun and Moon you had a variant on Geodude and Graveler and Golem where they had like magnetic dust on them. So by the time you get to Golem, it's like this fucking Russian czar with a big magnetic beard.
Right.
Or stuff like the fact that there isn't much pollution in the Sun and Moon region. So Muck and Grimer are a little different. They're more like corroded, like plastics and rubbers.
Right. I like that.
I like cool shit like that.
I dug that. And I'm trying to think of any of the other variants for this region. There was a Zora and Zoroark, which was really dope. I thought I was really just trying to recreate my Gen 6 team, which I couldn't because like 2 of them aren't here. Oh, you're just like, no, please. I definitely dug that there was there was some changes to, like, sorry, I'm just like trying to think of the other variant. Is there any other ones? I think there is.
You have the starters. You have Zorua. You have a Sneasel.
Right.
Sneasel was different.
Sneasel
and of course,
was different.
its evolution is like one of your rides.
Right.
The one that you use to climb, which I did because like Sneasler's always been one of my favorites. And Weavile's ridiculously overpowered.
I definitely like Sneasler. That's the lazy designing though that you have to call out like almost immediately though.
Because it's tall and lanky and just has different hair.
It's just the human model. And they're just changing it to be bigger, and then they don't even put all the other ones. There's another human model in it. This one, you're just in the backpack with your eyes sticking out, like looking around.
That was funny to me.
It is funny.
The fucking 2 eyes and the fact that they don't blink makes it so much creepier.
It does. But it's one of those things where it's showing off some of that like sort of lazy design going on here. Where you're just like,
also a variant because it's slightly different in Gen 5.
Yes, yeah. Bravery's a little bit different. I like that little on its head. But I did think that there's so much bad graphics that sometimes it really does hurt this.
Growlithe.
And Growlithe, sorry, yes,
Growlithe,
of course.
Hisui Growlithe is fucking adorable.
Adorable.
I love that it has like the little sheepdog hair where it covers its eyes. So fucking cute.
And I kind of like the story arc going on of like this is the first time they're trying to connect with Pokemon, so a lot of them don't know what to do. Instead of it just being like a normal thing, you know, like in a lot of the other Pokemon games where, you know, there's just a Mr. Mime who lives in your house, you know, like, and it's just like, no, this is like the first time a lot of these villagers are interacting with Pokemon at all, you know, like, and you're introducing them to them, you know, like you're just like a weird Pokemon Moses where you're just
it's like
being like,
it's like the way our ancestors and pioneers domesticated animals. You're just like, they just fucking went in there and hoped for the best. just the conceit of like turning a wolf into a domesticated dog is just like, let's go feed some wolves and see what's the worst that could happen.
Exactly. And I do want to say that the fucking quests I think work well. I think that there's there's some repeats. I think that they're trying to like pad out some of this. But I did like the sense of progression that a lot of the quests are able to give you throughout the game. And there's a lot of real feelings of progression through this game. And instead of it just being like, I went to a new area, you know, like
it helps like you're contributing to a big part of like this civilization thriving.
Yeah, you like kind of help this village get better and build better and get bigger. And I dig that. I think that's like a nice touch. And it's one of those things that as an RPG guy, it's one of those things that like it happens in a lot of games, you know, like Darkest Dungeon and stuff like that, where you like take care of the village and up it and you get that sense of progress, you know, like even though every time you're going out it's like a whole new thing of catching Pokemon, you know, like so I dug that. Instead of just the quests, it's like the village builds up, you know, like they accept Pokemon more. Everyone's got a Pokemon at the end there. And that's what I think they're trying to say with the lack of Pokemon battles, is that like there's just not enough people with Pokemon to do Pokemon battles. And maybe that's why it's all endgame with the actual like person to person Pokemon.
But even then, like that doesn't solve the fact that they're so weak.
Yeah, that a lot of them are just using 1 or 2 Pokemon. That's the worst part. That's the worst part to me, is that you only face people with full 6 Pokemon after you've beaten the game and with this update that came out. So even in the original game shipping, you did not have 16 Pokemon people. You're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, even when they were like, oh, this is going to be hard because we're going to fucking throw 3 of them at once. It's going to be 3-on-1, and you're still just like, damn, bam, bam. Okay.
I found the time distortions harder.
That's also their own fault. This has been a problem for the last like few gens where like you keep making progression and experience easier and easier to do. It's going to be easier for you to fucking plow through any enemies that you actually encounter.
Yeah, and that's definitely kind of the issue
It was
here.
always like the little steps. Like first you only had the EXP share and it was only for one Pokemon. Then you made the EXP all where it works for everyone. Then you made catch and gain experience. Now it's one of those things where like in this, you battle, everyone gets experience. You catch Pokemon, everyone gets
you throw it
experience.
at to get berries, you get experience.
Everything gets
like,
experience. So of course you're gonna be fucking over leveled by the time you face anything. Especially if you're like me, you're just like, fuck the story. I wanna collect.
Yeah, I definitely definitely was one of those things that I stayed in the opening area for so long that I was kind of over leveled for the rest of the game after that. You know, like where I was just like I was a little too beefed up because Dulcidai had been out there fucking training for that Decidui. Sorry. And I think that was one of the like weird issues going on. But even I think it even shows in that they don't like they bring up Cynthia's fucking like ancestor, you know, like and Cynthia's supposed to be
Cynthia has two ancestors in this, which is funny.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Cynthia bias,
but it's one of those things that she's like, you know, the hardest in all of Pokemon to beat, you know, like she's the true champion. She's the real fucking hard boss, you know, like, and they don't have a fight where you fucking fight somebody like her, you know, like even though there's two ancestors, you know, like you're just kind of like, wait, where was my like Cynthia fight where I got to fucking actually fight somebody of 6 and they're like way over leveled on me. And like they kind of just like laugh at you at the end and then, you know, and
I figured that's what they were going with. I like to call her Gilf Cynthia.
Yeah. Oh God.
Volo, not so much just because Volo's just kind of a merchant.
Yeah.
But like once Gilf Cynthia shows up, I was just like, huh, okay, maybe this is like the champion equivalent like later.
Right. And I mean, I haven't faced Arceus yet, and I don't know if I don't think they do that because I kept playing and I was like, where is that? Where is that fight? You know, like where I fight her, you know, where and they just don't do it. And I'm just kind of like, okay. And they did add that you can go to the training area and fight a bunch of people, and for a ton of experience, it's actually a really crazy way to level up if you really wanted to. And they are 6-person teams, finally. What's his name, who's the gym leader who does all the pointing and he wears the fucking ship captain stuff? What's his fucking name?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
He was actually great because I knew immediately he was from the game, and I was like, oh, okay, like he traveled through time too, you know, like you're like, okay, it's not just the main character, which I dug. I was like, hey, that's cool, you know, like I dig that shit. I do. He was a good fight, but it's one of those things that like even then all those teams only go up to like 80 or 60.
This game is so fucking easy that I was over leveled for every single fight, and I didn't even use any of the candies. I sold them all.
You sold them all.
I sold them all. They're good money.
I would use them on Pokemon to get, you know, to evolve them or something like that. You know, that's the only time I use.
They're easy money, and fucking increasing your satchel space gets expensive.
It gets expensive. What was the last one you did? What was the last one?
The next one I have, I think it's like 250 grand.
Oh my God. Cause yeah, I was at 100 grand and I was like, what the fuck? Does this keep going? I was like, what's fucking happening here? Like, I was like, Jesus Christ. And I got to 9 stars, but the 10 star is so far.
I'm still at 8.
Really?
I feel like once you get to 8, that's when it starts to like really fucking slow down.
No, I immediately was like, that's how I kind of played the game, is that like if I saw a Pokemon, I caught it, you know, like so I was just like, so my fucking star ratings just kept skyrocketing, and I hit 9 before beating the game, and then I've been stuck at 9 because it's 30,000 points to get out of 9, and you had 30,000 to get to that point in the game so far, and I was like, oh Lord. I was like, oh no. And so I've been working on that, but it's quite the bit. And I don't know what they give you at the end there. I forget. I didn't even look it up. I didn't want to, but like what they give you for getting your 10th star.
If they give you anything.
Yeah, if anything. And that was another thing, is that like, because I was doing that, I definitely over leveled even in that aspect, where I had it's like I had the star rating for like an 80 at some of the very early parts, like, and that's where I was really over leveled, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
here we go.
I do want to bring this flaw up, because I feel like if I don't, I'm going to forget about it.
Yeah.
God, these fucking games need voice acting.
Yes, because they put so much fucking personality into each one of these characters. And even the little bit of voice acting that they put into Pokemon Snap, I was like, ooh, that's nice, and they just didn't put anything.
Oh God.
And there's even lack of sound effects, where sometimes
it just
May was walking and you couldn't hear her steps, but you can hear her Munchlax's steps, and you're like, yeah, but she's walking too. Like, put fucking footsteps underneath her.
It just makes everything, and this was a problem in Sword and Shield too. Like, as soon as the Sword and Shield game opens, and I'm sure we brought this up in the episode.
Yeah.
It's like this big stadium, and you get introduced to Leon and stuff like that. And then he points to the screen and text box. It makes it feel unfinished.
Yeah, it makes it feel like you didn't do the rest of the game, because you put so much work into the voice acting of each one of these Pokemon, so they're living and breathing, and they're talking and they're like making noise, and then all the people, every single person doesn't talk. And I know this is like standard for Pokemon, but it shouldn't be, because it's one of those things.
It was a standard for Zelda too, and guess what? We changed it. We had to modernize.
We had to modernize. It's one of those things that you have the anime, so you already have the voice actors. Like, what the fuck are you up to?
You don't even need full-on voice acting for every single moment. You can do the typical JRPG thing, where it's just like, yes, and they have specific catchphrases, but then at important moments they have like full voice acting. You could have even done that, and it would have been better.
I would have been fine. I would have been fine with that. That happens in so many games. I'm totally cool with that. And like,
it's just to like
didn't do that here.
It's just to fill in the dead space, because this is just like dead air, and it's really stark.
It is. It's stark. You're just like, okay, and it's and I feel like all the other games we've said that, being like, hey, they should have voice acting. Hey, they should have voice acting. This feels the most like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this isn't done, like, put the voice acting.
This isn't on like handhelds anymore. At least not something that's primarily a handheld.
Right? I went to, right after playing this game, of course, my Gundam kick. I've been playing SD Gundam G Generation Genesis, which is a Japan exclusive, but they put it out in English, so that way you can't buy it in the US eShop, but you can buy it online and have it physically, which you're like, of course. But they even have that same thing, where it's like, and that's a game that came out in 2016, where the main scenes that they animate, they would put fucking actual voice acting, and they would bring back the people to do the voice acting, like the actual series people, and you're like, hell yeah, that's fucking awesome. And then you have Pokemon, where you're just like, you could have grabbed anybody would have been honored to be in a fucking Pokemon game, and you didn't put any voice in there, and all we get instead is boom, and they do the drums, which I dig, but put voices, something like a
what are your thoughts? Like,
yeah, right.
I played Persona games. I'm used to this shit. What are your thoughts? Let me explain.
Let me show you. Like, let me show you my strength. You're like, not, or the classic Pro ZD. Let me show you.
I think that enemy got to the point.
Thank you. I'm glad you knew exactly what I was saying there, because that's one of my favorites. But it's like, it's one of those things that feels weird. I do want to bring up a lot of the good collectathon things here. I love the unknowns being hidden. I think that was great. The wisps,
I found like
are a little, but I liked it.
That was the last thing I was doing, was collecting the rest of the wisps. The unknown are cool.
Yeah,
because
they're in funny spots sometimes.
They're in funny spots. I found them without even realizing they were in the game. And I found like fucking 10 of them before I even bothered looking at like the hints that you can read to figure out where they are.
Yeah, right. I I still haven't caught them all, but I've caught a majority of them, and I thought that was great. I was like, hey, that's cool. I also loved being able to up my recipes. You know, like I dug that, you know, like, and I think we haven't even talked about it yet, the important and why it's so a problem that the battles aren't good in this game. It like with trainers is that they introduce such a great battle system into this. They basically take Bravely Default and they're like, hey, we're basically doing that with Pokemon, you know?
Yeah,
like thumbs up.
It's like Bravely Default. It's not quite though.
No, yeah, not
it's
quite.
It's more like it increases or decreases your chances as opposed to Bravely Default being set. Like you're skipping a turn to go ahead one or two times. Like period, point blank. Like you're not getting the turn.
Yeah, it's not like a certain Pokemon are faster, so sometimes you'll do an agile.
It is very validating though.
Know,
like the amount of like the fact that like the Bravely Default system has been augmented or adopted into so many other games. I'm like, oh yeah, I told you motherfuckers this was a game changer when this came out.
This was it. And they're right. You're right, because this is actually really, it's a great battle system of like sometimes taking that gamble to throw the strong in so that way it hits harder, and you know, and then being able to, and I think most important when you're battling to catch Pokemon, to do an agile move or an agile move or whatever, however else you want to say it. Agile move.
Agile.
It makes it so you can catch a Pokemon. You maybe don't kill it. It hits that much less.
Yeah,
and I use that
helps.
constantly. I was being like, I'll hit it with that Agile.
But it's such a simple but effective system. Risk, reward, stacking. And what helped in Bravely Default's case is that it wasn't something that only you could do. Enemies could do it too. So it added a whole new layer of strategy that you had to worry about.
And some of the Pokemon do use it here. They do actually, they'll like, you know, the alpha Pokemon will whip out a strong and really fucking like get you. But it's again, when you actually face people, they don't actually use it that much. So it's kind of like one of those things that you're like, there's a cool battle system. What's going on? And then to not have, and the major strike I give against this game is one of my favorite things is online battling. I already said X and Y. That's the reason, Sword and Shield and X and Y. Those are the reasons why I love those games. I played competitive on them and I love them. You can't do that. You can't even battle your friends here. You can't even fucking be in the same room and battle each other, you know, like not even that, you know, like where it's just like battle a friend nearby, which I would have been fine with if that was your only option. If you had to go to your actual friends.
As long as you had the option in general.
Right. And to not have the option is rough. That it's cool you can trade, but they've also taken a step back from Sword and Shield where instead of you could do the mystery trade before where you just put in something and you get something back. And I thought that was
another thing Gen 6 added that was great.
Right. And it's one of those things that it is great. And sure, it definitely can sometimes artificially cut down your playtime because you could just wonder trade a bunch and get the dex. But that wouldn't even help here because you couldn't even get the full dex entry just by getting the Pokemon. You know, like it's one of those things that like that would have made the wonder trading would have made sense here. And you know, like it would have been mysterious, like it already kind of is, where they're just like you sort of throw Pokemon up into the dimension and another dimension grabs it, you know, like and here it's like you could have done that. And they take a lot of multiplayer out of this basically. Even in Let's Go, you got to play as you could play two at the same time. You know, it's a 2-player. We don't even have co-op options here, even though that kind of would make sense for this, like that, like you could have a second player and the second player could run around on a split screen and do other things, and then you would all just collect Pokemon together, like Animal Crossing or something, you know, like it's one of those things that they took the multiplayer out, which makes it, that's why I say it's a tech demo, is that if you put multiplayer things in, you're basically saying I'm going to support it. And like, it's going to keep working, you know, like, and it's going to like, you know, it's going to be a thing. But
it also speaks to my earlier point about how much just battles in general are kind of de-emphasized.
Yeah.
It's clear that the main pull for this is supposed to be going into the wild and like catching shit.
Yeah. And I did say my early review of it is that it it plays and looks the way I envisioned Red and Blue was in my head when I was a kid. You know, like when I was playing Red and Blue, that's how I envisioned it. That I was going up to these Pokemon, you know, like sneaking up on them and getting them, or battling them and catching them. You know, like it's like and battle and like going over this epic landscape that obviously wasn't on the Red and Blue, but that's what I was envisioning. You know, like, and it's like, and that's the way this game plays. And I think that's one of the major strengths of it, is that it feels like classic Pokemon while changing the formula in a significant way. And I think that's fucking important about this. You're like, oh shit, you know, like that's actually a huge part about this. I will say that I think that, and I said this earlier, and I think I tweeted it, that this is the shot in the arm. This isn't the fucking full reboot of Pokemon. Hopefully Scarlet and Violet is that, you know, like they're the real, like, this is the true next step. But this feels like good. This feels like the shot in the arm the series needed. This feels like we're going in a good direction, you know, like this is what I want to see from my future Pokemon games. Steps taken to the formula, and also big open worlds with Pokemon, full of Pokemon, you know, like that's what I fucking want. But also I also need multiplayer. That's the thing. I think that that's one of the major like hits to this game, is that when you beat it and then you start doing the end game stuff, that's it, you know, unless you're catching shinies, you know, like unless you're out there catching shinies. Which, how many shinies did you catch playing this game?
None aside from the gimme, which with the Ponyta.
Really? Even my brother's caught one.
I haven't encountered any.
It really, because you put 70 hours in. I caught my first one at 40 hours, and then I caught 4 more after that. And they were pretty. It was just kind of like, you know, I was hunting around and they were there.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the great things about this game, is that they kind of up the chances of shinies. That if you if you get a level 10 in the Pokedex, it ups your chances, and if you completely fill out one, it really ups your chances. So it's like, it really does encourage you to do that stuff if you want shinies. And of course, if you get the shiny charm after you catch all the Pokemon and stuff like that, and like but even without the shiny charm, I caught 5 fucking shinies, you know, and I that's more than any other Pokemon I've only caught 1 or 2 in other games, and that was like after a lot of work, you know, to get like shinies.
Just 2 in the games, because I don't go out of my way for it, because it just kind of, at least for like the main series, it kind of spoils it. If you're just like, well, if you're trying, of course you're gonna fucking get one. Like, I would rather have it happen through happenstance. And the first time it was a Tentacool, and I was fucking pissed.
Yep, I got Tentacool this time. I
fucking
got
Zubat of the sea.
Yep.
But the second time was me being bored and deciding I want to play Fire Red again, so I'm gonna make a new save. And my fucking Charmander starter was shiny.
That's crazy. The odds of that are intense.
Yeah,
like, they're
and
so high.
I've continued to transfer that shiny Charizard throughout the gens. He's currently on my copy of Shield.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
gonna fucking bring that motherfucker over to Scarlet and Violet too.
I agree with that.
Once you get like a shiny starter Charmander, I think I've kind of peaked where I'm like not as into it anymore.
You're like,
I got what I could ever possibly want, really.
That's so funny, but so true. I remember in X and Y, because I was playing competitive, people were giving me straight up shinies, you know, because they were breeding them, you know, like, so it's like that was easy. And it's like and then a Sword and Shield, it wasn't as easy, but I had a few. But this is 5 is crazy, even for
it kind of,
know, like that.
And then it kind of like robs it of some of the magic if you're just going out of your way to like breed it. And I have a bunch of friends who are like super into like Pokemon breeding, and it's just like, yeah, sure, it's tedious to me. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I get that. And I can see that people will put the love into this. I've heard a lot of people being like, I want to fill the decks. I want to, you know, feed everything, you know, like I want 100% this. And you're like, cool, good, like
I've never felt more incentivized to do it before.
Yeah,
I'll say
exactly. Exactly. I like I said, I already kind of walked away. I was playing. I already put 45 hours into the SD Gundam game, which I actually really enjoy because it's a little bit of Pokemon, a little bit of Advance Wars, a lot of Gundam, and I really enjoyed that. But I did come back this week for this review and I put in 5 hours yesterday, and I put a couple hours in the earlier in the week, and really. I had a good time even with that post-game feel, like with that, like going around catching legendaries is cool. Why are they all psychic? Why are the 3 in the lake ones psychic? Couldn't they change that up a tiny fucking bit? Like they're all psychic. And
well, that's just the way they were.
I know. It's just kind of one of those things where you're just like, you couldn't put a little
and
variety in that bitch.
It's like a lore thing. Like they're literally supposed to be like lake spirits, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what they're doing. They're doing a Shinno stuff. And you're just like, okay.
I'm not going to complete the decks, but I will do every request. I want to get all the wisp. I'm almost done with that. And catch all the unknown and get all the legendaries. And then after that, I'll probably be done.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I'm so close to the end there because there's 236 or something like that.
But it's also like
I'm at 222, so it's like it's close, but it's going to be a hard last
time,
10.
Like I'm saving up for a PS5. I want Horizon 2, and Triangle Strategy is out, so I'm kind of like,
Yeah, it's like it kind of sucks that I picked up SD Gundam before Triangle Strategy because I'm having such a good time with that one that like I didn't jump on Triangle Strategy right away, which I know I'll enjoy. So it's one of those things that I'm like I'll come back to you, Triangle Strategy. Don't worry, I'll be there for you. Just might be very much down the line.
I mean, I have a shrink-wrapped copy of both Octopath and Bravely Default 2 that are like untouched because I haven't been playing games as much. So that hurts.
That hurts. That hurts. And I mean that's I think one of the things that says about this Pokemon game is that it is fun. Like you did play this over the other games. Like and it is fun. It has some graphical problems. It has good story, but there's no voice acting, so that feels weird.
I tested the frame rate because there's this one NPC in the village who's just sweeping a broom, and I would just like see her at like 2 frames, just like tick, 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 and then just slowly walk forward to see how much she would smooth out the closer I got. It was so funny, just like
so funny.
Tick, 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 tick. It was really funny to watch.
Wild. And that's really the weird part is that there's some bad textures, there's bad pop in, there's weird moments where the camera doesn't know where it wants to go. I've definitely had moments where you start a battle with a Pokemon and it's like the camera doesn't know where to fucking put you and you're just like, oh, and then and every time you throw a Pokeball, it makes up a space, even though it doesn't make any sense.
There's also sometimes missing stuff if the Pokemon is too big. Like I have an Electivire on my team, but it's like the alpha that you can catch up in the area.
Love
and
him.
He's too big, so when you throw him out, you don't even get an animation of him coming out of the ball.
No, same thing for the Steelix. If you throw Steelix out and it's the alpha, he doesn't even fully render. He like comes in and then he's out of your render distance. And you're like, guys, like that's why I have hope for Scarlet and Violet because of how nice the textures looked on the Pokemon, and there was definitely some good moving Pokemon here, but there was still some moments in that game that were stuttering, even in that footage. And I'm like, guys, you're rushing if you're putting out a trailer with stuttering fucking footage. Like why show off that? Why show off any stutter at all? Like, who is approving this fucking trailer? I would be like, nope, you're not putting that in. That's stuttering.
Yeah, but I think that's sort of like the complacency that the industry is in now. Like, patches are a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because we can pretty much fix anything after the fact, but the curse is that we can fix anything after the fact, so who cares what it looks like now? We'll just fix it later.
Right. It's one of those things that, like, and of course the ultimate, like, Cyberpunk, which is now, I've heard looks great, plays great, is already, and I remember you saying that. You're like, in 10 years, tell me it'll be gonna be the game of the year. And like, They might do it. They might be able to be like,
I mean,
like
No Man's Sky is
DLC.
having a comeback of all things, so like you never know.
Right?
And it was
It's
one of
one
those
of
things
those
where like it
things.
was already fun to play. I didn't run into like anything game breaking like a lot of people did. It was like
Yeah.
no more glitchy than like a Bethesda game.
Right. We were talking about the Harry Potter game before the podcast started.
Yeah.
That, for some reason, is coming to Switch, and I'm like, don't do it, guys. It's not. I
It's
love
not
my
gonna
Switch. I love my Switch. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna. It ain't gonna happen.
But it's just one of those things where like we can fix anything after the fact, so get it out, get it out, get it out. Or in Cyberpunk's case, it's just like let's bully these people until they come out because we're tired of them pushing it back.
And you're like, what the fuck? I would rather a completed game. Just please don't give me a broken game. That's a sour taste, like that's not. And I'm not saying that this game is broken. I've only crashed once and it was kind of unexpected, but it already saved like 2 seconds before. So it was one of those things that it was like, okay, whatever.
I didn't have any crashes or any big glitches or anything.
No, I had a couple moments where like I was sliding because I threw a Pokeball from really far away, and then it started a fight, and I would be like, "Whoosh!" It like flew me over, and there was definitely some moments where when I was running around with Pokemon that were weird. But like that's kind of the issue of adding all terrain Pokemon into a thing. Your terrain better be ready to be trampled in every direction.
Yeah, basically as soon as I got weird here, I'm like, I'm gonna Skyrim the fuck out of these mountains.
Right? I was like, here we go, we're going up. And I did find a glitch that I did attempt to replicate, and I was able to replicate it only once. I wasn't able to do it again. Is that if you aim in like first person up a direct hill, and then you bring out a Pokeball and you like keep aiming, it will literally bring you up the hill like Skyrim. Like,
I heard that was the thing.
And I think they already patched it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I was able to replicate that. And I was like, oh. I was like, here we go. But of course you hit the end of the map and then it's done. So it's not really that good of a glitch.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh. You're like, son of a bitch, just give me the Sneevil. Like, just like, I'm going up the hill. Basically, yeah, do you have any final remarks on this game you want to give?
No, I think it's more or less a step in the right direction. It's the most fun I've had since like the last 2 gens, which is sad.
Yeah.
Especially because like as good as it is somewhat unpolished and it needs work. But take the elements that work in here. Hopefully they're in Scarlet and Violet. Like you're starting to win back some goodwill. Don't fuck with me.
Don't fuck with me. I would say that's my thoughts here is that I enjoyed it. I had a good time. It's missing features. It's missing. It's a little unfinished. And I think that's the issue is that they were definitely like, okay, we're making Scarlet and Violet. We need the rest of the team. Let's ship this baby, you know, like, and I think it kind of shows a little bit, like in that aspect. And I hope that that's what this is, though, is that this is not just the framework they use for another Pokemon game, but a stepping stone to another Pokemon game, like don't just keep doing this, but in different areas, like, cause that will, you gotta improve this, like that's the issue here is that we bring up, I already brought up the Breath of the Wild comparison because people say it all the time and it's not that because Breath of the Wild, and even though you can find tons of glitches, is not even this glitchy, like this is Skyrim level glitchy at times.
And I also,
like
I get sick of Breath of the Wild comparisons in general already. And I knew it was going to happen as soon as the game started to get really popular. I'm like, oh, this is going to become the new Ocarina of Time in terms of people not shutting the fuck up about it.
Yeah.
And making comparisons where there are no comparisons. Now it's literally to the point where like any game that features like an open field with some grass, are like, it's just like Breath of the Wild. It's the Breath of the Wild of insert whatever franchise here.
I know, and they even said it with Sonic, the new Sonic the Hedgehog game coming out. They're like, oh, it's going to be Breath of the Wild, Sonic the Hedgehog. You're like, it's just open world Sonic the Hedgehog. Why do we have to say Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, just say open world. Breath of the Wild didn't fucking invent the genre.
You're like, come on. No shit, we do like Breath of the Wild here.
I love Breath of the Wild. It's a lot of fun.
There is issues. You can't be, it's the same thing as like, I love Ocarina of Time, and it's definitely one of my favorite games of all time. But of course, there's issues, like you can't not. And basically, let's do our little review of this. Our does it belong on your shelf? There's a couple ratings here we could do. We do pre-order it, which is like beyond good. Put it on the shelf. Buy it on discount, which is like, still get it, but and then it's nope, don't do it. Don't buy this thing. Don't fucking think about it. Don't even do it. It's a big old nope. What would you give this?
Probably exactly what I did. I didn't pre-order it just because I was skeptical of the state of the franchise in general, but I did eventually get it, and at full price.
Yeah,
it's not something. And that's another thing. It's not something like with the Let's Go games, where it's just like this is not a $60 title.
No, and that's kind of my issue with. It's like I almost want to push it down to buy it at a discount because it does belong on your shelf. I think that this is a good Pokemon game. If you haven't played a Pokemon game in a while, this will be super fun for you. Like if you haven't played Pokemon since Red and Blue, or Silver, it's like this will be mind blowing to you. You'll be like, holy shit, this is crazy. I love this. But as a returning fan, it's one of those things where I'm like, if you're basically, I break it down to if you're a Pokemon fan, this is a buy. This is a get it on your shelf as soon as you can. If you're not a Pokemon fan, maybe buy it at a discount. I'm not saying not get it. I'm just saying like it's one of those things where you can get it now or maybe wait until there's some weird sale for it. And I'm not saying it's that you shouldn't. It's like, but it's for Pokemon fans. This is it's definitely for Pokemon fans in the way that Let's Go was for everyone and Pokemon Go is for everyone. This is more for Pokemon fans, this is much more in their vein. And basically it's kind of like all things, all starting of franchises. It matters what happens when they do with this. Are they, is Scarlet and Violet going to be good? Are there going to be more Pokemon Legends titles? Like what? It's one of those things where this is kind of a stepping stone, so we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Is basically it. Because it could be one of those things that they didn't make a lot of these games, so if you're a Pokemon fan, you might as well buy it because it's going to disappear. With the Wii U and the 3DS store shutting down, and that means you can't get all those 3DS Pokemon games digitally. Buy them. It's one of those things that if you like the Pokemon game, buy them.
Like game preservation being an issue all the time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Even film, it's being able to own it physically is a good thing because you never know where it's gonna go when the volcano blows.
And hopefully we'll get better about it as like video games because they become so mainstream. Will hopefully get some level of like respect and maybe efforts because film preservation also has its problems, but we at least have like the Library
Criterion
of
Collection, and the Criterion Collection. Like I know that they put Super Mario Bros in the Library of Congress, but not. And I know they have a few like files from other games, like they have Bin Laden's like Animal Crossing game or something like that, which is super funny. But like you're like what? But it's one of those things that we need to preserve these things, and I worry that Pokemon has already shown their hand that they will delete virtual versions of this and basically disconnect it. So if you like these games, buy them, because it's gonna go away. It's not just going to show up on a streaming service. They're going to be gone. And I think that with the NSO doing N64 and Mega Drive instead of Game Boy, that even shows it even further that they're like, no. We don't want that. We don't want you to have easy access to those games. We already did that with the 3DS, and we realized that's not what's going to work. I think obviously they'll put it out in some collection at some point and make boatloads of money, and that's really the fucking plan. At some point, let's put it out at some weird Pokemon collection that'll be like something like $120 or something like that, and that's the real fucking winner right there. But besides the point, guys, if you, basically the review is get it, and if you're a Pokemon fan, get it because it's going to disappear, and if you're not a Pokemon fan, this could be really cool for you. I think that if you're not, if you haven't played Pokemon in a while, this is a cool time to jump on. Like and I wouldn't even say that with Let's Go, even though that was supposed to be for everybody and supposed to be this big starting point.
Yeah, if you're gonna get a sale though, it's probably gonna be on the physical side because oh man, when it comes to those first party IPs, Nintendo never wants to do a decent sale on those.
No. So it's like I can say get it on a sale, but I don't even remember the last time any of the Pokemon games were on sale at the eShop, like you're like, ooh. So maybe you could get it at Best Buy on a weird sale where they put a lot of things on sale, but that's like, basically get it. Basically, get it if you can. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed our first gaming episode. We want to do in a while. We want to do more. So if you have certain games that are up that you want to talk about, please comment down below and let us know what you think.
I think it's really just a case of like you and I are playing different things.
Exactly. We have different systems. So it's like one of those things. I mean, if we both got triangle strategy, we could do the triangle strategy. That wouldn't be a... Feels like a long ass game to do though. I'm sure it's going to be like 90 fucking hours of gameplay for that thing. Especially with the demo being like 4 or 5 hours. You're like, oh, okay. Like that means this game long. If the demo's this long, they're like, here you go. You have this for free. They're like, this isn't even a quarter of the game. This isn't even a sliver. But we do want to do more of those. So if you guys let us know what you think, basically make the algorithm work. Subscribe, like, check out the podcasts on every platform that you could possibly think of podcast wise. We're on it. Check it out. And if you want to see our beautiful faces and our props of, I got Charmander over here. I built that model Pikachu over there. If you want to see our props of stuff that we're holding up, I was holding up my Switch earlier. Go to the YouTube, see our beautiful faces. Maybe we could do Kirby as one of our next ones. Maybe. Seems like a game me and you might like if the reviews come back. It's one of those things that you're like, this could be good. I'll try the demo, but
a fully 3D Kirby game is long overdue.
Yeah, long overdue. But basically, thank you guys for tuning in. Please check out our personal social medias on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Yep Frank on there.
Mod Karika.
And I also have a Yep Gundam page, which I post lots of my Gundams. And here's a little preview that's not even on the page yet. I just finished this guy this morning. Gun Cannon, SD Gun Cannon. He's little, he's cute, he's small. He's not even on the Discord or the Instagram. So if you do go to the Discord, you do see all the photos that I don't post on Instagram. So if you're into that, there is a Warp Shelf Discord that is you can find it in the info of the podcast. So check that out. And guys, thank you so much for your support. I hope you have a great week, and I keep gaming, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.